and welcome back to the Fairway to Retail Success, an AGM podcast. I'm your host, Justine, the AGM's Director of Membership and Education. Today, I'm thrilled to welcome Allie Putnam, founder of A Putnam, a brand redefining women's golf apparel with its resort to sport concept. While traditional sportswear is designed for the gym, lounging, and errands, A. Putnam offers a seamless transition into workwear, dinner outings, and an elevated lifestyle. The collection blends performance and elegance, honoring the tradition of golf while meeting the modern woman's need for versatility. In this episode, we'll explore Allie's career path and what inspired her to create A Putnam, her insights on the evolution of golf fashion, and the ways her brand is shaping the women's apparel space. Plus, Allie will share some of her advice for emerging brands looking to stand out in the very competitive golf market. Allie, thank you so much for joining us today.
Absolutely. I'm so excited to be on this with you and speak to your community. It's wonderful.
Terrific. So, I'd like to start out by asking our guests to shed a little bit more light on their journey. How did they get started in golf and our sphere, and what led you to developing A Putnam?
Absolutely. I feel like I've got a very, I think, unusual approach and entry into the market. I always say that I'm a very casual golfer, and while as an athletic person at heart, golf has always been the leisure sport and activity for me. How I got here, to rewind a little bit, I certainly had parents that grew up in kind of the country club setting. I was introduced to golf very young age, probably 5 or 6 years old, and I always remember my dad telling me that no matter what, you will learn how to play golf so you can hold your own when you're in the business world. And he always shed a light on it that it was extremely important for networking and business. So my whole outlook on it had always been that way. And then I went on and I played lacrosse at Syracuse. That was my sport. Never touched a club for years. And I was a supply chain and entrepreneurship major. So I always, a dream of mine was to start a clothing line from a very early age. Never knew what it would be, but I was like, one day I'm going to start a clothing line. So I had that kind of tidbit in the back of my mind. When I went into supply chain and a career there, I had almost probably 13 to 15 years of little bit of retail experience, but then it was very heavy in international logistics and supply chain for industrial manufacturing companies. So I was nowhere near retail, but I knew I was always trying to claw my way back to it. I got to a point in my career, and I remember this is like not that long ago because this brand, we launched it 2 years ago at the 2023 PGA show. And it was probably about right around COVID timeframe that my dad, again, who's a serial entrepreneur, was like, "You seem bored at work. Like, what's next for you?" And I was at the point in my personal life, we had 5 boys, and I decided a basketball team was good. So we closed that door, and I worked that entire time of having kids, and my career was always really important to me. I knew staying at home wasn't really in the cards for me. And I had really started to play golf more personally. My husband's a big golfer. He was a grass science major out of Ohio State. So, like, he had this passion for the sport that mine wasn't quite as strong. But as a result, we were golfing a lot as a couple. Kids were getting old enough to start golfing with them. So, in those moments and belonging to a private country club, I struggled with, I think, resonating with the clothing. And I was golfing a lot for business. And I think that was my aha moment of I never feel comfortable in those settings of golfing with executives, partners. And I was always searching for what to wear that made me feel confident and I think in a strong position and from my career standpoint. And so I started wearing my own like workwear clothes on the course. And it's funny because one of the first and one of our best selling products is a button up. And I just remember being like, I have to find a way to make a button up that's performance focused, but doesn't look it. So anyways, it just really evolved and I just went full bore deciding on I was going to start a golf brand and went back to school. I was doing it in the evenings on how to launch a clothing line and just realized that I felt like there was this niche and opportunity. So I like raced to the finish line and within a year launched a Putnam from like concept to that first PGA show. So talk about a roller coaster and just a whirlwind of a couple years.
Wow, that's incredible. I love that origin story. That's very cool.
Mhm.
And having that golf and business background and then
Yeah,
searching for what makes sense for women like yourself to wear
right.
on the golf course.
Truly.
Absolutely.
Thanks.
Absolutely. So, golf fashion has certainly evolved significant in the last few years. I know, generally speaking, COVID was definitely a catalyst to some of those relaxation and more
Mhm.
casual aspects. Where do you see a Putnam kind of fitting into that evolution in where women's apparel has been and where it's headed?
Yeah, absolutely. And there's so many cool things obviously going on with the sport. I think what's so neat about it is that there's a lot of space, I think, for creation and creativity. And it's so personal. And I think golf, especially on the women's side, it hasn't been really, I think it's not conducive and has not been conducive to, I think, a woman's sense of style. And I think everybody listening to this, especially if they have a role as a merchandiser, know that women are really tough to please.
Yes.
And it's because we just all have different personalities when it comes to style. So that evolution right now going on with golf, I think is really opening up a lot of opportunity for to bring the diversity and types of style and clothing in the sport. And where a Putnam kind of comes along is that I think in that moment where everything was getting casual, that's where I felt like I was losing options for my personal style.
Mhm.
And I've always been, not, I always wear jeans, of course, but I'm not a dress down girl. I always loved putting on workwear clothes for work. It like mentally prepared me to say, this is what my day is going to be. I'm going to
Sure.
be put together. And I struggled with that in and out of COVID, working full time at home. And I had at the time four boys, pregnant with my fifth. It was a crazy time. And I wore a lot of loungewear, so I can't even say that I did it. But I think where I felt like running the other direction was belonged to a country club that had a pretty strict dress code still. I liked that about it, and I love the traditional aspect of golf and the attire. But I really felt like there was a way to modernize it and bring in an assortment that still functioned in the sport, but just had this true versatility, which for me, and I think this is a lot of what's going on in fashion in general, probably not even just golf, but golf is picking up on it too. And I think that's where this versatility and getting more use out of product and
Yeah.
making this like conscious decision to buy product that's going to last you. I think a lot of people are talking about getting away from fast fashion and all of
Yes.
that. That's whether it's a sustainability play or not. But I think more and more there's a trend towards buying product that has longevity to it and can serve you in more ways than one. So that's where I was like, I really felt strongly that you could hold on to the traditional attire of golf and flex it into workwear. And that's where our versatility is. Our versatility, just, I always say, and we've kind of coined this slogan, is that we're golf functional pieces that flex up and not down. So
Mhm.
for us, it's super important that our product really does lean a little bit more timeless, sophisticated, dressier versus product that flexes down into athleisure and loungewear. So I would say our stuff isn't going to be worn to the gym, but it could be worn to the office. So I think it's really on this trend of versatility that I think we're seeing. And there's so many different takes on that. And that's what's so fun about this. And I'm sure to some degree it makes a merchandiser's life easier and then on the other hand harder. Just because then you're bound by floor space and all those things of what do you bring in to make everybody happy?
Absolutely. Making everyone happy. That's always a balancing act.
Oh,
And
yeah.
I definitely worked at a club also that had that stricter traditional dress
Mhm.
code where we couldn't buy some of the trendier things
Yeah.
that were starting to come through our
Mhm.
catalogs in those few
Yeah.
years of during and after COVID. So I think it's so
Yeah.
wonderful to
Yeah.
have that option.
And
And
I even look at the like hoodies, for instance, I always think are such a good example. Where I'm like, oh my gosh, I was never able to wear a hoodie. And then in the last 2 years, even our club has been like, if it's a golf hoodie,
Hmm.
that's okay. As long as it's not like a sweatshirty sports hoodie, you're fine. So those rules are really bending, which I think allows for more creativity and new trends. And it's such a fun aspect of it, really.
And I liked what you touched on about your clothes being good for on the course, or then you could wear it to
Hmm.
work. And I think that's a theme we're seeing of consumers want something that they can wear for a Zoom meeting, and then they can go
Yeah.
pick their kids up for school, and then they could go play
Yeah.
9 holes and stay for dinner on the patio and not have to
Right.
wear a different outfit for all those activities,
Yeah.
that it's
Yeah.
more of a lifestyle and it's comfortable
Absolutely.
clothes that they can get all those uses out of and wear
Yeah.
instead of a specific golf outfit that you only wore on the course.
Absolutely. And that to me is where me being a casual golfer lends to me designing stuff where most of the time when I'm wearing a Putnam, it's not on the course. So I think I always, when I design anything, it's
Mhm.
my first thought is, would I wear this? Could I wear this outside of the course? And again, not look like I'm running around in golf. It is. It's a really important
Yes.
aspect of the design process and ethos of the brand. And yeah, it's very fun. It's a good challenge.
Yes, yes. And that longevity, I think, is a trend we're
Hmm.
seeing of outside, of course, the sustainability
Yep.
benefits, but the folks who are, I know, like capsule wardrobes are
Yes.
popular these days.
Yep.
I ask myself when I'm shopping, would I have liked this 10 years ago? And could I see myself 10 years from now wearing this? That's what I try to
Yeah.
ask myself. But I
Yeah.
think folks are looking for things that they're gonna keep for a long
Right.
time.
Yeah, I think it is. It's that I always say, like, we have minimalism maximized, it's our thing, and it is really that minimalistic capsule style wardrobe. And as a result, I have a complete phobia to color and pattern. I will like just put it out there. So I err on the side of designing neutrals and
Mm.
patterns that are a little bit more subtle or incorporate a bunch of different colors that could merchandise well with a lot of other A Putnam neutrals. And we do fight that, I think, very typical response from a golf shop is the merchandisers are our ladies like color, our ladies like pattern. And I'm like, God, I get it. I'll give you a little dabble of it. But in the end, sometimes I think for women too, that those core pieces they might be attracted to the colors, but then they go to and make a buying decision. And neutrals are a little safer buy, where especially none of the product in, I'd say, a private country club setting, especially in the shop, are cheap. And so I think it's a little easier decision when somebody's, oh, if I get the navy blue one, I know I could wear that on repeat. So I have
Exactly.
that mentality too.
Exactly. Or they can pair it
Hmm.
back with their more brightly patterned
Yeah.
item. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, what do you hope women feel when they wear a Putnam, whether on or off the course?
Yeah, absolutely. I think in the almost like the buying decision, but also I think pulling an outfit together should absolutely be an effortless process with A Putnam. And part of that's making sure that the product, I think, feels great, that the fabric is wonderful, the silhouettes are flattering, and they have this like peace of mind that they know that they can mix and match it with even other things in their closet. And I always tell people that are wearing it, I'm like, I don't expect a head to toe a Putnam look. Like, it's amazing if you do, but I hope that this skirt is one you'll wear with like the sweater and boots this winter, or this top will mix and match well with your jeans and your that to me is what makes a Putnam just an effortless decision. And I don't know if there's anybody in the room, especially from a women's perspective, that can't relate to that. Oh my gosh, what do I wear today? Feeling. So I think like effortless is a big piece of it. I'm also a mom of 5 boys. So I think the comfort, effortless piece of it is just a must, anyways. And then I think that sophisticated and timeless is just a really important aspect of it too, which to me exudes confidence. And in those, we always say like very workwear focused a bit too, is that you feel comfortable and confident in those pieces. So that's really the goal of all of these things is to bring that all together.
I love it. That's terrific. And are there any key customer insights or feedback that you all have
Mhm.
received along the way that have shaped your product development of different directions you've maybe gone in that you didn't
Oh yeah.
expect as folks
Hmm.
are wearing and playing in the clothes?
Yeah. Yeah. It's always so interesting. And I say that I think reminding yourself as a designer that you really can't be everything to everyone is so important because I constantly get feedback and I ask for it, especially because I'm doing the designing. It's so easy for us to pivot and really take any feedback and make those changes like that. And I think it's a really important part of our brand too. For instance, we have a dress that we dropped recently, the garden dress, and I love it. It's one of probably my favorite pieces. It's a little bit more of a day dress resort piece, but with the like pleats on it and everything on the side, I always say that now because of customer feedback, we're like, it really is a certain body type that it looks better on. And I don't, it's really hard when you get into those positions to me too, is because I want to be inclusive of sizes and shapes because we are all so different. So again, from a merchandising standpoint, it's really like my job is to make, a merchandiser's job better and to look good and provide a product that is just a home run for them. And their members are thrilled that they brought in this piece from Putnam. When we have a piece that just isn't as flattering on everybody, that's when I'm like, all right, we're not reordering that one. Let's put it to bed. And it was great for those that love it and then otherwise move on. And it really helps me understand too, I think, from a fit and function standpoint of what works and what we have to be careful of. And you always want to take risks. And I don't think that makes us hesitate to do, but it just is like, all right, well, next time, let's just make sure of where we put these pleats and is the drop waist in the right spot. All those little things that just, it's a little bit of trial and error, especially being so new. 2 years, we've had, let's say, 4 seasons. It's just now, I almost think we're on a roll in terms of figuring out what's a home run and what's always a little bit maybe more fashion and more of a risk. And so it's really neat, like that customer feedback. Will you please make more tulip crews or will you please make more pocket skirts and more colors? And we didn't have that. Like I didn't have any of that feedback before. So it's the customer feedback is so huge and it's a really important aspect of our design process and the assortments and even looking at I think regional between colors and I'm a northerner. I'm in Cleveland, Midwesterner. So when I come around to fall, winter, I'm ready for sweaters, pants, layers, all those things. And really being mindful of are our colors and fabrics suitable for all these climates that are engulfing season come those winter months. So it's a huge part of our design process.
Absolutely. And I liked how you touched on you can't be all things for all people. And on the other side of
Yeah.
the coin, a golf shop can't have all the things at all the time.
Right.
It works the same way. A
It
brand
does.
and a style might be a fit for them at one time, and then
Yep.
maybe it's not at another time. And same thing goes
Absolutely.
color. So
Yeah.
you
It's
can't
so
have
true.
all the things all the time.
Yeah, yeah. And I think that's what's neat about this space. Like it's a little daunting, right? That you could go in one season and if it's all the rage and everybody loves the colors you selected and the styles, then it's a home run. And then you could potentially have a season that just doesn't resonate as much. And they're like, we'll hold off on this selection or we'll go lighter this season and wait for next spring. So it's a kind of give and take. And like you said,
Mhm.
it's certainly as a brand want to be well rounded and there's something for everybody in terms of seasonal drops and things.
Mhm.
But yes, I have to be, we've had plenty of people that say, can you just give me a more performance polo? Can you give me a more performance just pull on skirt? And I have to sometimes be like, maybe one day I love a structured skirt because it doesn't scream performance, but it functions just fine. There's a little bit of like, all right, we got to hold our own and stay in our little niche that we've created. And so it's always a give and take for sure.
So, for our AGM retailers who are
Mhm.
looking to expand their women's assortment, what sort of factors should they think about when they are perhaps introducing a Putnam into their shop
Mhm.
for the first time?
Yeah, absolutely. I would say because we're so different and I think a little bit out of the box for any shop and sitting next to your typical brands, I think A Putnam takes a little bit of explaining that,
Mm,
hey, it is resort to sport. Here's how things can be styled. You should look at it as taking this piece and integrating it into your everyday wardrobe. That's what these pieces are meant to do. And we do that in a few ways. Like we always like to offer some almost like marketing services to some degree that just say, hey, let us help you if you want to put together a little styling video that we can send out via email to your members to just let us explain it, let us show the member who we are and how to approach the brand. We do that quite a bit. Obviously, on-site visits and trunk shows and things like that, really, there's nothing better than that, obviously. And I know a lot of shops are always looking, especially from a new brand perspective, that it's the best way to introduce the brand. So we've definitely gotten creative, just virtual ways of doing the same thing. And then I always say, and something that I think is very unique about a Putnam, I always ask about how much non-golf traffic do you get into the shop?
mm,
So the benefit I always say with a Putnam is that it doesn't scream golf, and you could have plenty of your social members walk into the shop and pick up a piece and say, "Oh, this is super cute. I would wear this weekend or out to my kid's soccer game or whatever it may be, or to work." So I would say a majority of the shops that we run across don't necessarily advertise to their social members. Or if the golf shop is disconnected from the clubhouse,
mm.
then there's less social traffic, especially for women. I think there's an intimidation factor, unfortunately, not only to the sport, but I think those that don't play golf, you definitely hear women be like, "Oh, I may go in there to buy my kid a shirt or my husband something, but I'm
Right.
not like, otherwise, I have no reason to go there." But I think it's just we talk a lot about time on property. How do you
Mm.
bring people into the shop? How do you keep them coming back? How do you keep them there? So I do like to say that A Putnam is just a very nice option for even a social member.
Absolutely. I think that's a great point. That's something we've talked about in our community, and a
Mhm.
question our merchandisers have had is how do I engage those social members, those non-golf members in the shop? And
Yeah.
the shop is a unique part of the property that everyone can interact with, whether or not
Right.
they play golf or whether or not they play tennis or use all the other sport amenities. They can all shop.
Yes.
I think that's a great way of, that's a great suggestion of having a
Mhm.
brand like yours in the shop for someone who maybe doesn't play
Yeah.
the sports. And I love the marketing opportunity that you mentioned offering to the clubs. I think that's
Mhm.
amazing. And so many, I think, merchandisers would be so grateful for those sort of
Yeah.
options of that kind
Right.
of support of navigating, working together to launch a brand in the shop.
I think it does. It goes a long way. And they've got so many other things to worry about. Trying to think about how they present and put an email together about a new brand, like it
Mm,
does take a lot of work. We know it. We've got it down pat on our end, but to do that for something you're not super familiar with is really hard. But there's definitely a lot of benefits from that. We're seeing that and having fun with it.
absolutely. And when it comes to merchandisers displaying a Putnam in their
Mhm.
shop, is there anything specific you've seen that has really stood out as far as how they display it or how they style it or any
Yeah.
storytelling they've used that you've really seen success with?
Yeah. I mean, I would say that hands down, not only the display, which is the nice part is, as an example, spring, summer 26, and really all of our previous drops too, we really try to make sure that if there's a pattern, it coordinates with all three drops. I think color is very specific to a club.
Mhm.
I think a buyer will totally recognize and be able to say, every time I bring in pink, it totally flops, or every
Yes.
time I've got green, it sells so fast. Every buyer, I think, knows that. And so we really try to make sure that some of our patterns, when we bring it in, incorporate a few different colors of that drop so that they can really suit their, I think, typical customer and appeal. And we've seen all sorts of assortments of maybe a table outlay and then a full mannequin or just a half mannequin on it. I think the mannequin always helps just from a outfitting perspective and how do you piece and pair things together? How do you layer, especially when we've got those clubs like Amy Gannot from Capital City. She's just like constantly has, I think, this beautiful way of layering the pieces in and together. Half of that's merchandising and picking those pieces that I think either layer well or just, hey, that midweight layer we know will sell super quick and let's show them how to pair it with this color for the drop. But hands down, the most impactful thing we've seen is just when a merchandiser is female or
Mm.
any of the staff, it's when they're wearing it, I think immediately, I think women are just like, what are you wearing? It is different. They all of a sudden, I think, understand the structure of our pieces and just how nice they play around together. That I think to me is like the best part. And we of course extend PUD and try to work with clubs on some of the staffing and things like that. And since it is a bit more formal, I think it gives the staff an opportunity to not necessarily dress up, but wear pieces that really make them feel important in the role that they're in. And I think that's unusual. That's hard. I think what's so hard to find for staff too. And I think a lot of merchandisers just don't wear golf clothes because they
Yes.
don't think it's work appropriate, right?
Yes.
So that's where we're finding this really cool spot that
Mhm.
it's especially teaching pro. Like they can be in a Putnam and teach a lesson, but then be in the shop for the day. It's a good combination. But anytime staff is in a Putnam, I feel like those are the places that do really well.
Yes, that's the greatest endorsement, I think, is
It
having
is, it
national
is.
staff wearing any brand. Absolutely.
Couldn't agree more. Couldn't agree more.
Are there any trends you're seeing in women's golf apparel, whether that's on tour or in the marketplace? Anything you're seeing that you're really excited about, or perhaps a color or a fabrication?
I think it's so interesting to see on tour just the range and diversity we're still seeing. I know, it's funny because we go back and forth. Is that somewhere we want to be? I always say that I don't know that, and and we're totally okay with it, is that we're not the performance brand. I always say that we're not the hardcore LPGA or all wearing a Putnam. And you see just a lot of creativity, I think, on that side of things too. And players being more open to wearing
Mm,
I think different brands that showcase their personality too. It's not all the same typical performance golfwear anymore, even there.
mm,
And then I think what's really neat and always excites me is that I think there's just lifestyle trends in the fashion world that are being picked up by golfwear just quicker. So I think there's this new adoption of I think that creativity and a little bit, and I don't even want to say trends, I think maybe a little bit, but whether it's color trends or whether it's certain silhouettes, I think they're being adapted by golf quicker. And I
mm.
think it's always been this lag time. And I still think there is this kind of lag
Yes.
in that translating from you see it on the runway, maybe a year and a half or two, you start picking up on some of that in golf. But that excites me because I think that just means that the customer is really open to something new. So that hands down, I think, is overarching what's really neat that's going on with golf. Because I think before, even now, not that we feel resistance, but I think you still get some either buyers or somebody doing like I don't get it. My ladies really just want performance pull-on skirts and all that. I'm like, maybe they don't. Have you tried something just a little bit out of the box? And we talked about, it takes some nurturing and I think
Mhm.
explaining and effort. And I think colors, we've got brown was a huge color for late last year and into the fall. And I think we're gonna that's I think a very unusual color for golf typically, but I think it's gonna have a stronghold and you'll see probably a lot of it in the
Mm.
next couple seasons. So maybe even in the next year. And I think about this summer, of course, there's gonna be a lot of pastels and that'll still show up in golf, but there's just, I think, so much more diversity. And again, the adaptation of the adoption of the trends is just a little quicker. So that's what I get excited about is that I think people are just open to something new.
Amazing. That's definitely good to see things
Hmm.
moving in that direction.
Yeah, yeah, it's fun.
What's next for A Putnam? Is there anything exciting out on the horizon? Anything we should be keeping our eyes
Hmm.
open towards seeing?
Absolutely. I always say that my focus, and as a business, we are hyper focused on being a wholesale green grass business. I would say the direct to consumer is a must have. You, of course, have to have a website. Of course, from a social media perspective, where we pick up a lot of wholesale accounts through our Instagram and LinkedIn and things like that. But greengrass is really important for us. So I think we've got a few partnerships coming up, and there's some regional PGA chapters that we're working with, and we haven't gotten to do that before. So I think it excites us to see how we strengthen these regional relationships and how we can serve, I think, members of that group of those groups. And it's somewhere we're just finding a lot of, I think, traction and the people resonating with, again, these pieces that if they're PGA professionals and they can wear these pieces all around property, I think it's very beneficial to them. So there's been this kind of seamless relationship forming, anyways. And we've got just a few other kind of fun things that I would say are very green grass focused more than anything. And then, of course, we've got all the new drops, and that's always fun. But it is a whirlwind when you're in the thick of all this, dropping new product and styles and leaning a little bit into some resort pieces, and which is fun from a design perspective. It's fun to flex that side of things as well. We've got that, and then oh gosh, yeah, and I just finished up designing fall winter 26. So you talk about the year ahead, we're like already done with next year. So it's crazy, but it's as a brand really such a fun thing to just keep the pedal down and really keep pumping out some new stuff and being the brand we want to be. So it is, it's really exciting and a lot of cool partnerships coming up this year.
Amazing. That all sounds super exciting, and I know we'll
Hmm.
definitely be keeping our eyes out for
Oh,
all of that.
thanks. Amazing.
So, as we wrap up here, do you have any advice you would share with other emerging brands in the golf space that are really trying to make their mark, get off the ground, and
Mhm.
stand out in what has become a pretty competitive and crowded
Oh my
market?
gosh. Yeah, you're not kidding. I think about from when I started, and it seems every year there's a new handful of brands that show up at the PGA show and everywhere. And I think even outside of the PGA show, like the direct to consumer market has just
Mhm.
exploded too. Whether they're even looking at the green grass space, I think there's so much out there. And I know, of course, any merchandiser is trying to figure out what are the brands that pull people in instead of going to shop online. You, of course, have that, I think, that loyalty to the club and a member's interest in the logo and all those things are still so important in that space. But when I look at, and I actually have quite a few conversations, I think at least one a quarter with new brands, I try to give back and share just any knowledge that I have. If I can help them not make a mistake that I made, I try to do that. So I'm all, and this also has to do with the course that I took. There's been quite a few golf brands come out of the same course I took. So I always try to mentor in that aspect as well. And I always say we're still new. Year three is still, I still feel young from a brand perspective. But I think one of the biggest things that has helped us, and it's not always an easy thing, is that you really to keep your blinders on and you need to be original. Like I think any brand that tries to copy and paste, I think is just you're losing sight of who you want to be. And it's such an easy thing to do when you're just drowned by social media and who's doing what and who just did a photo shoot there, who just did a collaboration there. And just keeping, I think, your like core brand pillars in mind to say, this is how we design, this is who we're designing for, this is who our woman is. And I always say that it takes time to figure those things out. I don't think even from when we started, we've had such an evolution of coming into, all right, here's who we are. Like here are the women that now gravitate towards A Putnam, how are grabbing for it for these moments in their career and their life. And I didn't know that, like designing my first collection. I think just reminding people that it takes some time to come into that and then just be true to who you are. Because I think it's that originality that makes you stand out.
I love it. Yes, so great things to think about for all our emerging vendors and
Yeah,
out
all
there.
been there.
This has been so terrific, Allie. It's been
Oh,
awesome
likewise.
to get to know you a little bit more and learn more about A. Putnam. And so
Thanks.
thank you so much for being here for this podcast.
Oh, Justine, thank you for AGM and I think of the opportunities it's really given us, I think, to showcase the brand and so much more. So we're excited about working with you guys, getting this opportunity to share more about us. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, we're very grateful to have you as an AGM vendor partner of ours.
Thanks.
And thank you, everyone, for tuning in to another episode of the Fairway to Retail Success. We'll see you again soon on our next podcast episode. Take care, everyone.